And today I'm going to be walking you through how to create a custom Amazon advertising strategy. And this question was actually submitted by Stephanie. So thank you so much, Stephanie. If you're unaware, I have committed myself to answering your Amazon advertising question 5 days a week. So if you want to get your personal question answered, there will be a form link somewhere where you can submit your question, and then I will choose one to answer every single Wednesday. I'm not going to promise that I'm going to get this in depth. However, this is a question that I get a lot and one that we've gotten really good at. And so I wanted to be able to share what I've learned with you so you can shortcut a lot of the hassle and the confusion that I had to wade through when I was trying to figure this out. So Stephanie, I hope this helps. So the question is, everyone talks about goals. It's true. I talk about goals a lot and how it's important to know what your goals are. It's easy to calculate your break-even ACoS with many Google Sheets calculators out there, and then at a high level, you choose between profit or growth. Great, you're on the right track. It sounds like you just need this last piece. You're saying, but once you have those two answers, what's next? As in, how should those two answers be used to shape your PPC strategy? What KPI should you be basing your goals off of? What match type? What ad types? What are the best practices out there? And this is a fabulous question. Like I said, one that I puzzled through for the longest time. So I will say, in the beginning, crafting a custom ad strategy is difficult because you don't know what influences what. So unless you have a really good understanding of the Amazon ad platform and kind of which match types do what or how things perform, it gets a little bit hard to be more custom, which is why in the beginning, I actually highly recommend you just find someone who's getting results that resonate with you, and I would just follow their strategy, and then along the way you learn the whys of the strategy, and then you can kind of branch out and start doing your own thing. That was my path to growth, but hopefully this really will be able to help you kind of see how people on a higher level, like what actually goes into crafting a custom ad strategy. And I want to kind of break down the confusion or the vagueness when it comes to like what is an actual strategy, because it's much simpler than you think, and chances are you're already doing this. However, what I want to do is give you some frameworks and some kind of like a path forward where you don't have to be doing it haphazardly. You can do it with lots of intention. All right. So I'm going to start off with this. So goals are important because it points you in the right direction. So Stephanie is 110% correct. You need goals, because that gives you the where am I going question. And most of the people who are very dissatisfied or say, like I was launching off, I'm launching, and then all of a sudden I pivoted for profitability and all of my sales went down. The reason why you see people kind of like ping ponging, like they're feast or famine, or like they're going in one direction and they pull back too quickly and then they head in the wrong direction, is because what they're doing is they're trying to flip flop between different strategies, that kind of, there's always pros and cons to stuff. So they're running in like opposite directions, and the two strategies that they're kind of flip-flopping between, unfortunately, kind of have their cons as like the opposite one. So in this case of like profitability or sales growth, if you run too hard in one direction or the other with a specific strategy that's going to achieve hyper growth or hyper profitability, you give up in the other one. And so that's why. So what helps you kind of course correct for that, or get like a really defined, this is the direction I'm going, is actually a goal. That's why it's really important to have an actual goal and to be able to go towards it. So I would say goals give you the direction. That's why it's really important, because if I'm going to start a journey of 10,000 steps, I can end up anywhere at the end of my 10,000 steps. So it makes sense for me to decide in the beginning where I want this journey to take me. And then that helps me define, okay, do I take this fork in the road or do I take this fork in the road? That one gets me there faster. And that's kind of what strategy does. So strategy gives you focus. So it starts with goals, but it ends, the strategy ends with focus. So then the question is, great, how do you create a custom ad strategy? And that's what I want to go through today. So you want to start by asking, where am I now? You want to get a very good picture of where you are now and define and pull data, where am I now? A lot of people are like, oh, I think I'm roughly this possibility. Last time I checked, the ACoS was this, or last time I calculated total ACoSs. And a lot of people are using, like, software is really great because it's much easier to log in very quickly and get a very quick pulse and snapshot just specifically where you are. But either way, you need to start asking where you are now. So these are the things that I would look at in the where mine are now question. I mean, you can look at where's my ranking. You can get super in the weeds, but from a high level, I like to pull it back to these kind of things. So what I would do is I look at sales. Where are we on now with my sales goal? Total ACoS, and then ACoS. So total ACoS is going to give you roughly your account profitability. If you're using a profitability tool, that's going to be a lot better. So you might also add that in there. And you can also look at ACoS, and ACoS is going to give you your ad profitability. And unless you're already, say, defining goals, very specific goals on individual products, I still would recommend zooming up and looking at this on an account level. And then once you kind of get an idea of where you are, then the next question you want to ask is, where do I want to be? So again, this is the goal. So we're saying, where are we now? Where are we want? Again, we're starting the journey of a 10,000 steps, and then we define that we want to end up on the other side of town at our favorite pizzeria. That's where, that's where we want to figure out. So the strategy is what bridges the gap between where I am now and where I want to be. So it's defining what are the steps in between that get me to here. It seems super ambiguous, but I'm going to define it a little bit further. So strategy is a plan of action or policy designed to achieve a major overall aim. Again, that's why goals are super important. I don't know where I'm headed, or I don't know what path to take if I don't know where I'm headed. So I would say a good strategy outlines the actions you need to take to achieve your goal. And the best strategy is the path that gets you there the quickest. That's really what defines a good strategy or a bad strategy. Is, am I taking the absolute actions that are the best ones that get me to said goal? And I'm actually going to give you a set of like how you can dig down and like actually define what's going to be the best one. But strategy simply equals priorities, because we can't do everything, nor should we do everything, especially with the ads. You might think that, oh, I need this like insane ad structure with like all of these campaigns and all of this stuff. Just know that the more campaigns you launch, the more keywords you launch, the more aggressive you get with things, the higher your ad spend is going to be. That might not necessarily be in line with your goals if you're in a hyper profitability mode. So strategy is simply prioritizing the path that, again, takes us to said goal. So then how do we figure out what path we need to take? And notice, I know your question was on match types and keywords and what kind of bid, like you're looking for the nitty gritty, which I promise you I'm going to give you. But notice I haven't even talked about any of that yet. Right? I'm simply like, what are my top line numbers? And then I'm going to allow my numbers to lead me down the path that gets me to the, here's where I take very specific action on a match type, on a keyword, etc. But we work with very large accounts. And what I found that if you start in the nitty gritty, you get lost. If you follow the path this way, you don't get lost. And in fact, it brings you to this thing, the best course of action. Okay. So my mode of operation is working from the top down. You'll find me asking a lot of questions. I tend to go high level, and then I let the high level numbers lead me down the path. So here's an example, right? So we have an account. It has 10 products. The goal is to increase sales, and the account is running at the total ACoS goal. So this is our account strategy goal at the account level. So what I do is I look at the overall account, and then I define where this account needs to be. And then I look at it. Okay, so based on what I'm seeing on this account level, so this is a very important piece. The total ACoS is running close to goal. Remember, I kind of defined sales and total ACoS and profitability. So I kind of like to get a pulse on the profitability, a pulse on the sales, because really that's what everyone, if you're in a business, if you're selling things, that's what you're looking for. You're looking for increases in revenue. That could be increases in revenue through top line because you're making more sales, or that could be increases in revenue on bottom line because you're making more profits, and those two should be balanced. I don't care whose business it is, where it is, what industry, regardless of Amazon or otherwise. You need to know how much your top line and how much is your bottom line, and then you need to make moves to adjust for that. Every business everywhere is doing this, especially if they want to maintain for a long time. Amazon businesses are no different. So in this case, I know that my account is running close to my total ACoS, which means if I have a specific total ACoS goal, that's probably based off of my profitability. Total ACoS is just kind of a really quick and dirty way to get a pulse on the overall account profitability. So therefore, I need to increase my sales, which, if you're talking ads, the only thing ads can do is push spend in a specific direction to gain visibility, which then gives momentum and helps you increase sales. But I have to balance that with the fact that I'm running at my total ACoS goals, which means if I push ad spend, it needs to come back to me. I need to be careful. So this is my account level strategy goal. Find where I can increase sales with little to no impact on the total ACoS. Sounds simpler than it is. And so my goal is I need to get the maximum sales lift for the least amount of ad spend, which is what everyone is always trying to do. But again, just kind of defining these things. If I had my goal is to increase sales, but I was above my total ACoS goals, then that would be different. I might say, okay, do I prefer to really pull back because I'm not as profitable, and then kind of see where I can balance these two on sales? Or am I okay with increasing total ACoS a little bit because I care more about the sales increase goal? When I talk about like figure out what you want, is it more profit or more sales? That's kind of what I'm talking about, is realizing that I'm most likely going to give up a little bit on my total ACoS goal if I charge too far in the increased sales direction. So then my question is, am I okay with that, or am I not okay with that? And it's not always a right or wrong answer. It's a where are you at in your business? So for instance, if you're struggling with cash flow, you probably need to be a little bit more profit conscious versus maybe someone's figured out their cash flow and they've paid off some of their loans. And so therefore profitability isn't as much of a concern business wise, not necessarily again, you can't really kind of get those pulses from looking strictly at the business reports. That's why for us, like, client communication is super important. Or again, you as a business owner should be in a position to make that call. So, all right, here's my question, right? So I still need to get to the ad types. I still need to get to, where do I actually make these changes? Because this kind of stuff is analysis. It doesn't actually make impacts on the accounts. We need to figure out, again, what is the best place to make impacts on the account, knowing that this is my overarching goal. So here's my digging question. We got 2 levels of digging. Okay. So the first digging question is, what product will be the easiest to grow that will have the most impact on total sales with the least amount of ad spend? Okay, so you need to look at the account as a whole, and each product is going to make up the overall account performance. If you have one single product, you only have one product to act on. However, in larger accounts and as you scale, you need to be looking at individual products and determining where do I need to take these actions, right? So for this, I like to analyze these things. I analyze a lot more numbers, but I would say these are the basics. So I like to look at the percentage of total sales, meaning what percentage of the total sales does this particular product make up? Then I like to look at the percentage of total spend. What percentage of the total spend is being allocated to this product? The highest amount of total sales and the highest percentage of total spend, these things are going to be what have the greatest impact on my account. So again, we're looking for the best moves, which are going to be the ones that are going to move the needle the quickest. So if something has greater impact on the total account performance, then moves you make on those products are going to have the most impact versus if you go really deep in the catalog. So if my question is, where can I find the greatest sales increases? I'm not necessarily going to go all the way down to my brand new products that are barely gaining traction and are only currently making up sub 1% of my total sales volume. Even if I doubled those product sales, the impact on the total account is going to be not that much. Does that mean that I shouldn't be working on that? No. But again, looking at strategy in terms of what am I prioritizing that's going to get me there the quickest, those are not the things that are going to get me there the quickest, hence it's not the priority. All right. And then once I get an impact once I get a gauge of which products are going to have the most impact on change, then I look at the performance of them. So I look at total ACoS, I look at ad sale percentage. Ad sale percentage is the percentage of the total sales that are attributed to ads. So you take ad sales, divided them by total sales. And then I like to look at the ACoS for, again, the ad profitability. I also like to look at the unit session percentage versus the ad conversion rate. Can be very helpful. If you, typically speaking, not always, but typically speaking, the ad conversion rate should be higher than the unit session percentage, or at the very least equivalent. If I have, let me just walk through what these numbers tell me, okay? So these tell me what has the most impact, but these tell me how efficient the ads are currently running. And if I increase spend or decrease spend, what's going to happen? So if I was looking for what's the easiest to grow, oftentimes people will simply take a look at, hey, what are my best selling products? Let me just push those. If you are looking to see where you can make impact with little to no change in the total ACoS numbers, if your best selling product is already at or above your total ACoS goal, if I increase ad spend on that, most likely I'm going to increase my total ACoS. And then that's, again, because it's a very high impact product, it's going to have a very high impact on the overall account, i.e. most likely the entire account is going to have an increase in the total ACoS. Versus maybe if I look a little bit deeper into the catalog and I can find another product that's still making up a large portion of my total sales numbers, but maybe my total ACoS is running below targets. Well, that would be a really great place to look. And then I can further look at the ad sale percentage. So if I have a particular product that says it's like over 50% of the total sales are coming from ads, well, if I push that product, am I necessarily going to I might just be pushing the ad sales. I might not necessarily be pushing and increasing on, the organic sales for that product. So that might be a good call. So I kind of look at what has greatest impact, then what is the performance of that impact, and then try and dig down into, okay, where can I best make inroads on this overall account strategy goal? So that's my first digging. So once I have this goal, and then I have the product that I can focus on, that again, we're looking at best case scenario, easiest to impact. Once I have those two things, then I'm going to ask my second digging question. And you might find that you have like one or two products you need to fix. So I'm not saying you can only ever focus on one product at a time. I'm just saying because there's limited times in the day, a lot of this kind of work takes it's very analytic heavy, which means it's very time intensive. Once you get good at it, you can do it pretty quick, but you're definitely going to want to make sure you're focusing in on one of these two things, maybe a week at a time or so. So my second digging question is, what do I need to add or subtract from this product's ad structure to move it closer to my goal? And again, I know I didn't talk on like the individual nuts and bolts, so I'm going to give you a framework for the nuts and bolts, okay? So again, in going back to say the performance of this thing, I'm looking at impact, I'm looking at performance. So if my goal was to decrease or increase the profitability numbers, I'd probably be looking at what has the greatest impact that also has a high total ACoS and maybe ad sale percentage, and then just see, okay, is there places I can make inroads to the ad structure that can fix that? is what I'm looking for. All right, so these, and I want you to think of these in levels of importance, okay? These main bullet points are kind of in levels of importance. The sub bullet points are in no particular order. So the first thing you want to do, again, we're looking for what is something we need to prioritize and what is the easiest path forward. So the easiest path forward is always to adjust something that you already have. A lot of times if people want to say increase total sales and they're like, all right, I have a budget to do so, everyone wants to go out and do keyword research. Am I saying to not do keyword research? Am I saying that you should never take a look at that? No, you definitely should be taking a look at that, and that should be on a routine basis. However, you do want to be aware that when you go out and find brand new things, those brand new things are completely untested, and you don't have a lot of good data to make very specific decisions. So I always want to ask this question first. Can I get more X? And X is goal. So can I get more total sales? Can I get better rankings? Can I, in the case of profitability, can I decrease spend out of this current ad structure? So you want to look at adjusting bids, right? Do I have something that is running underneath my ACoS targets? It's driving a large amount of sales and it's helping with ranking. And I'm only on page, the bottom of page 1. Can I increase my bids and be able to drive more sales here? That's a great question. And that's a very easy tweak. You can do it today. It's based on data. You're already looking at the performance, so you can do that. Can I adjust budgets? That's a very easy one. Do I have campaigns that are running on a budget that are driving sales volume for me? Can I simply increase those ad budgets and drive more sales? You can see how these are very quick, pinpointed moves, but because we've already gone through this clarifying question to figure out what products we should do this on, we know we're doing it in the right place. Because the thing that can happen is if I just go into my overall account, and this is why looking at it from which product level is very, very important. Because if I go into the account and just say, hey, where can I increase bids on things that are getting me good sales on performance? It might be that I'm increasing bids on those products that we would have identified in that kind of half step that we don't actually want to be increasing spend on. So again, we're figuring out which products we need to focus in on. And then we're saying, where can I adjust bids? Where can I adjust budgets? Or where can I adjust campaign settings? So for instance, there's things like placement percentage adjustments, all of that good stuff. Like there's little tweaks you can do. For the most part, the major tweaks are adjusting bids and budgets. Okay. And then once we kind of figure out that and see what that ad spend shakes out to be, what does that performance shakes out to be, we want to ask, can I expand based on the current data available? So again, going out, doing completely new keyword research, all these untested keywords, not a bad idea, but not the easiest and most likely thing to get us immediate impact. So great place to do this is, of course, the search term reports. Now, this should be a classic. You should be analyzing your search term reports ongoing. But if you're looking to expand, maybe not necessarily go out and do a whole bunch of untested keyword research. Maybe you say, hey, what kind of search terms do I have that I'm not, I haven't retargeted as keywords? Maybe I need to go through, maybe I can push those. Also expanding into other ad types. So do I have this one keyword or this one target that's absolutely crushing it for me in sponsored product ads? Can I run a sponsored brands ad? Do I have ASINs that are absolutely crushing it for me in my sponsored product ads or sponsored brand ads? Can I move those into sponsored displays? We're building on what we already have in the account. And then, of course, testing other match types. So, for instance, if I have something that's absolutely crushing it in an exact match, can I launch it in broad match or a phrase match, lower bids, maybe try and get some other placements? Or other things that could work is, do I have exact ASIN targeting that's absolutely crushing it? Can I launch it in an expanded ASIN targeting to be able to go out and find like products so the algorithm can kind of do that for me? Or maybe I want to see what categories in, launch lower bid category targeting. Again, because what we're doing is we're basing this on the data that we already have available. So we're making moves that have the most are most likely to get us the impact that we're needing. And then once you've kind of gone through this, if you're still like, oh, I have additional ad spend, only then I would ask, what haven't I explored? Again, it's not that we don't do this analysis ongoing. Look at our competitors. Where are they ranking? Where are we not ranking? Like, that's definitely an analysis you want to do. I'm just saying, if you're looking at my custom ad strategy, again, from the perspective of strategy equals priorities, and so the best strategy is the path that gets you there the quickest, you can infer that your competitor is ranking really well on a keyword and is targeting all of these other keywords. You have no idea if their performance is efficient or not. They could be absolutely losing money to get on all those placements because they've deemed in their terms it's a priority, when it might not necessarily be the right priority for you given your goals. So those types of tests, what we do is we test them in smaller increments and smaller batches and try and be a little bit more refined with what we're doing. I would not mostly ever, except for on launch when you really have no data to go after, I don't really like going through and just absolutely launching a whole bunch of crazy untested stuff. Because again, it's super crazy. It's untested. If you have high amounts of ad spend and that high amount of ad spend is not efficient, your entire account is going to be inefficient. Going back to these percentages of total that I talked about. The higher percentage total, the higher amount of the impact. So hopefully that was helpful. In giving you an idea of how to do a custom ad strategy, how to write a custom ad strategy. And again, I will actually leave a link to this somewhere below the video. And then you also, if you want to get your Amazon advertising question answered, there will be a link to a form you can fill out. And again, I have committed myself for now up until my time does not permit. I'm going to be answering your Amazon advertising questions 5 days a week.